financial inclusion, and actually climate action. Our ambition to raise close to $4.1 billion annually for climate action are stipulated in our NDCs. I would like also to state clearly that climate change is no longer an environment issue, but a development problem. So we need to find the nexus between climate change and development, but most importantly, what the role of microfinance can play in this regard. I'm going to have Mona, the Executive Director of API Finance, make a presentation to us on environment, social and governance, ESG, and how API Finance has.
API Finance. At API Finance, we're a wholesale impact investor that works with financial institutions, particularly to ensure that our smallholder farmers and agribusinesses access finance for their business. But lately, as you can imagine, being an agrarian economy and society, climate change has indeed affected agribusiness in general, and at the heart of what we're doing amongst the environmental management, social inclusion, and good governance, environmental climate financing therefore becomes a critical and pertinent issue that we focus on. So sustainability is a big part of our agenda, and by sustainability, when anybody talks green, when anybody talks sustainability, they really are talking three things. They're talking how you're looking after the environment, how you're ensuring that socially, for instance, underserved regions like northern and eastern Uganda are catered for in your products and services, how women, youth, and underserved demographics like women, youth, and refugees are catered for. So that's social inclusion. And from a governance point of view, the institutions that are providing the financial services, products and services are properly run in accordance with good governance practices. Businesses as well, enterprises, agribusinesses cannot survive without good governance practices. Everything hinges and falls on good governance, and so it's important that we have the right systems, structures in place. So that in general is ESG, that in general is sustainability. So if there's one thing you take away from here, when you talk green, when you talk sustainability, you're talking three things: environmental management, social inclusion, and good governance. But for the purposes of dwelling on climate finance, I will speak a little. I believe my presentation should be up. But nonetheless, I will carry on as they catch up. Environmental management, especially from a point of view that many of us in the room, especially as we are in microfinance, the catchment of our clientele tend to be smallholder farmers and agribusinesses. Around environmental management, climate finance or climate change has become a very real thing. With the exception of the people in Senegal, and I think all of us know the season's names. And the grasshoppers were not coming. But on a more serious note, the rains are not coming when they used to come. And even when they come, they're causing. We used to have dry seasons, now we're having droughts regularly. And we're seeing the drought seasons become longer and longer droughts. So the whole thing around climate change has affected our environment significantly, and there are three interventions that we're making in respect of climate finance. One, there's an issue about mitigation. Mitigation is reducing our footprint and how much greenhouse gases we are putting or emitting into the atmosphere. And it is said that developing countries such as ourselves, the sub-Saharan Africa, are not the victims here, or not the victims, are not the perpetrators to look at when it comes to our carbon footprint. Not that we shouldn't. When you look at the scale on which we contribute to greenhouse gas emissions, our scale and contribution to that problem is minimal compared to our more developed partners and nations in the Western world. So, while we're focusing on enhancing our mitigation and ensuring that we live as minimal a carbon footprint as we can, the major thrust for us is climate change adaptation. The issue I've just been talking about. For instance, I believe one of the scales that is out there is that we are the 10 most vulnerable when it comes to climate change, but the 155th prepared to deal with it in terms of countries in the world. So in terms of vulnerability to prolonged droughts, to flooding, to pests and diseases, to the impact of climate change, we are the 10th most vulnerable out of, I believe, 170 countries measured in the world, and the 155th least prepared to address or deal with climate change. So the second thrust of this adaptation, and that is key for us, and that is what we work with the other institutions like AMFU, the regulator, UNRWA, and individually like Centenary Bank, FINCA, Liverpool, EBOSA, and many other financial institutions represented in the room. Adaptation is key. Then there is obviously biodiversity conservation, which is really looking at, especially as climate change, especially as sustainability, ESG became part of it. One, we work with the financial institutions and to ensure that the right products are in place. And through the right products and services, the loans indeed are then passed on to the beneficiaries, the smallholder farmers and the agribusinesses. Loans for agricultural irrigation equipment, loans for improved seed. Because you can have improved seed now, which you will put in, will not be rotting when you have prolonged floods, or will survive prolonged drought and still sprout. So are there products like that? Yes, there are indeed, and we've been able to put them in place. And the loans for these kind of enhanced products to help smallholder farmers and agribusinesses adapt are definitely provided through our partners' capacity building for smallholder farmers and agribusinesses. Together, lots of investors such as ourselves and everybody that's in the room to this that is going on in matters of sustainability, how to be that much more efficient in the delivery of our products and services. That's another way that we have partnered with the industry to address the issues of private finance. And then there's also support tier that is capacity, so it is